Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Before we get into the show, I just want to thank everybody for coming out and supporting us. We actually have a live studio audience that comes to Potomac Station Coffee House every week, and we have some regulars. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for showing up every week. That's really special. Thank you. And I also want to thank Potomac Station Coffee House for hosting us. We got a great show for you tonight. I'm Valerie, that's David, and this is the Gen X Pittsburgh Podcast. We have a great show for you guys tonight. We have Dan Rothschild here. He is the founder and senior principal of Rothschild Doyno Collaborative. We're going to talk building, space, architect, all that great stuff. I'm very excited for tonight's show.
Me too.
Yeah, my husband got really nervous. He's afraid I'm going to come home and have all these design ideas for my home. I said, we're not going to quite jump into that aspect of things, but he was a little nervous about you tonight, Dan, so I apologize.
You'll have to ask Dan if you can afford him.
Yeah, right. So anything exciting happened with you this week? Anything you want to chat about?
Well, our power went out like the rest of the city for a few hours, which, makes one sort of tired, run down, right?
Yeah. And I love sleep these days.
Yeah, we all do, right?
Do you remember, like, back in the early 90s, leaving to go to the upstage at 10 o'clock at night and drinking quarter drafts, dancing to the industrial music, going to Ritter's afterwards, and then going to work the next day by 9 a.m.?
Do I remember?
Do any of you guys remember those days? Because I do.
I don't remember, but I'm told that they did
exist.
Happen, right? Yeah. We used to do a loop that started at the Beehive at like 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And then we would go, there used to be this place in Parkway Center Mall called Pete's Wildlife that sold dollar mixed drinks from 10 to midnight. And so a friend of mine was going through a horrible divorce. We would go there from 10 to midnight where he would drink as many dollar drinks as he could. We would join him. And then we would go to the upstage for quarter drafts from midnight to 2.
Okay.
And then we would go back to the Beehive
before
making our way to Eaton Park, which was open 24 hours back then.
Oh my God.
There's nowhere in the city open 24 hours anymore.
How did we do that? I know. And how
I
did
don't
we
know.
do that?
And then I would show up at KQV to work at 6 a.m.
Right.
Refreshed.
Yeah.
Happy for the hour I got to sleep.
Yeah, I bet everybody knew what you did the night before.
Yeah, right. Now, I'm angry if I'm up at past 10:05.
I know. I'm usually in bed by like 9:30.
Right.
Yeah. So that's that.
That's enough reminiscing.
That is enough. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have Dan Rothschild right here. When I need a coffee that actually shows up and a suite that understands commitment, I head out to Potomac Station Coffee. Everything's made in-house, always fresh. And yes, that cinnamon roll, you're eating the whole thing. And the ever-changing latte menu is legendary. Check out Potomac Station Coffee House next to the tracks in Dormont. Welcome back to Gen X Pittsburgh. Dan, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, and I don't think we mentioned this in the opening, but you are David's wife's boss. We're going to talk about
together.
That later.
I would not use the boss term. We collaborate. That's right, Kim.
Which is a big thing that you do, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But for decades, you kind of like revitalized Pittsburgh, but we don't know a lot about you. Can you give us a little bit of information about your background? Where were you born? What was your childhood like? Where did you go to college? Fill us in on that part of you.
Do you hate your mother, love your father? Anything you...
We can get into that. I grew up in the suburbs of New York City.
Okay.
In a commuter town, in a garden apartment complex. And from a stability standpoint, I was there all 18 years before I went to college. Brought up by a single mom with 2 boys. And it was an idyllic childhood. It's when you went outside and you came back at dinner Nobody made any appointments for you, and everything was your playground. So it was very nice. After high school, went to college at Miami of Ohio to study architecture. Went there because my best friend, who was a year older, studied architecture at Miami. I visited him one day. I took Amtrak out to Cincinnati and then to Miami and had the best weekend of my life. And I thought, this is real, you know? So I just followed him, basically. Spent 4 years there. Highlight was in the second year I met my wife at a fraternity sorority party. I was social chairman at that time. So we met sophomore year, and when it came time to graduate, we both needed to go to graduate school. We weren't yet a married couple or anything, so we went to North Carolina. I went to NC State. Lori went to Chapel Hill. And we thought that was about a half hour away. If we wanted to stay together, we could. And if we didn't, we were in our own universities. I beat down that road between NC State and my Mustang. And we got married in between graduate school years.
Nice.
So second year of graduate school, we were a married couple.
Nice.
Wow.
Aw.
And then you want to know how Pittsburgh
Yeah, I want to know
happened.
what brought you to
wait,
Pittsburgh.
wait. I think I just heard you say Mustang.
Yeah.
You had a Mustang.
I could put everything I owned into my Mustang. That's
Wow. Yeah.
what I had, basically. If it was more than that, I didn't own it.
So you could drive a stick?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a motorcycle in high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a whole nother
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
My,
So I'll
my
tell you,
senior year in high school was not very academic.
this will take just a second, but when I worked at KQV, I bought off of one of the other DJs there, a motorcycle for $500. It was a 1972 Honda 500 or something. Not realizing not realizing how short I was, and that my feet didn't touch the ground at all.
just gonna say.
So I brought it to Kim's house, who I was living with at the time, to her porch where it sat, until I rode it to my house in Mount Washington where it sat, until we moved, and I gave it to a neighbor, and never once riding it, because I was scared that my feet couldn't touch the ground.
That's a big Honda.
So I give you a lot of credit. You are more of a street maven than I ever was.
Oh, yeah. I had a part-time job. I needed to get there. And then when I went to college, my mom sold it without me knowing it. I came back at Thanksgiving. Where's the bike? We sold that on
Did
you.
she at least give you the money, or did she keep it?
She was an investor in the wheels. So I think she got a rate of return. So, but anyway, there is a story of how we picked Pittsburgh. When we were getting ready to graduate in Raleigh, Lori actually transferred from Chapel Hill to NC State our second year, so we could live together as a married couple. We were in a bookstore, and in that bookstore was a book called Places Rated Almanac, and by Rand McNally. And what that book did, it surveyed 100 different metropolitan cities in the country, and they rated them on 10 attributes, from affordability to recreation, education, healthcare, blah, blah, blah. They gave a number for each one of those, added them up, got a total number, and they ranked the 100 cities from best place to live to worst place to live. And we interviewed in the top 4 cities. And in 1982, Pittsburgh was ranked 4th,
Wow.
which was
Wow,
sort of a
really?
surprise to Pittsburghers.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
not to people who didn't know Pittsburgh.
Sure.
So we interviewed in Chicago, DC, Atlanta, and Pittsburgh.
Wow.
We got offers pretty much in some of those places, not all those places. But the story is, you come through the Fort Pitt Tunnel and you see this paradise. And we were never there before the time that we interviewed. And our heart was just taken with the beautiful European rivers, open space, Mount Washington. So that's how we came to Pittsburgh.
When you came in through the Fort Pitt tunnels and going across that bridge, were you like, ooh, redevelopments everywhere? We
No,
have
it
some fun
was-
here.
I wanted to be over there, and I ended up over there. You know, you can't get there from there. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying? So, no, I wasn't really thinking about the opportunity. I was just thinking, where would be a good place to live?
Where did you guys land at that point?
We landed in Shadyside,
Okay.
and we were in the 3rd floor of an old Tudor house. The fire escape was on the side, so it was a convert. But in that house, the landlord was trying to get to know us, and he said, so you have a family in Pittsburgh? We said no. Friends? No. Job? Not really. And he says, so let me get this. You two are graduate students, and you chose to come to Pittsburgh because it was a nice place? 1982.
Yeah.
Steel mill just shutting down on 2nd Avenue. Right?
Yeah.
He says, I'm going to call the Post-Gazette. I think this is a story.
Wow.
I'm like, I'm from New York. Like,
Right.
you move to Manhattan, the Times doesn't do a
Right.
story.
Right.
So he called up a friend who was a reporter.
Yeah.
They interview us. 4-column story. Best place to live. They say Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
With
Wow.
a picture of Lori and I on
Yeah.
our couch in Shadyside.
Wow.
Yeah, and then this happens. You're one of the top 20 people to watch eventually. So it really worked out for you, Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh worked out for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
We raised 4 kids here, empty nester now, 2 grandkids. I don't want to get choked up, but yeah, I'm a big fan. It was a great decision. How about that?
Good, excellent.
First of all, I just.
Did you know any of that stuff?
I did not. And it's so interesting. And it juxtaposes what Marco Cardamone, who was a guest a few weeks ago, said when he left in the 80s. He left and said, I never wanted to come back. And but for a root canal and the need for a doctor, he never would have been in Pittsburgh. So it's unbelievable to me that in 1980, whatever, people were moving. When I say whatever, I mean all of the 80s, where everyone was talking about the flight out of the city.
It was migration.
Yeah.
Out.
Right.
So that's why it was news. And I was working at the largest architecture firm in town, which is called Dita Ritchie Sipple. They were the architects for Three River Stadium, Allegheny Center, Civic Arena, And the article gets pinned up in the bulletin board. And they say, this kid says he works here. Does anybody know him? And it's like, I think he's that kid in the corner, the quiet one.
Yeah.
So, how could you not say, this is paradise?
Right.
Yeah.
What was it like? You talk about driving through the tunnels, and we've all had that. But we've all had that with the landscape that exists now. And I grew up in the eastern suburbs. So when I was driving into the city, I was driving along with the steel mills on my left-hand side.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember. I don't remember the view driving into the city, but it wasn't the same. PPG wasn't there. The first Renaissance hadn't taken place.
Nothing.
Right. And most of the buildings were what I would term either colonial, built many, many moons ago in Pittsburgh's first sort of itineration, or boring and corporate, right? So what was it like?
Well, looking around the audience, we're probably seeing people who've been here in 1982. It was a drab industrial city that just got knocked down.
Yeah.
So, when that last steel mill shut down on 2nd Avenue, other than the Edgar Thompson Works in Braddock, no more steel.
Right.
So no more 3 shifts, no more where's your dad work, So it was a place looking for an identity.
Yeah.
And, I didn't really think how I could be involved with that. You're a kid out of school, you're trying to get a job. But really, if I could zoom ahead a little bit, in 1999, there was a paradigm shift in Pittsburgh. And that was the River Life Task Force, headed by Teresa Hines and the Hines Endowment. Mrs. Hines got a boat and put all the foundations, all the philanthropists on the boat, and said, we're going to go up the Mon, we're going to go up the Allegheny, we're going to go down the Ohio. And what did you see? You saw the butt ends of industrial buildings, because those rivers were where the waste products went from all the industry.
Right.
And, it was gray, it was dirty, the rivers were polluted. So the River Life Task Force said, this should be our greatest asset, but it's our greatest threat to the future of the city. They hired a very inventive architectural planning firm, came up with the idea of Three Rivers Park.
Okay.
Three Rivers Park goes from like the 31st Street Bridge all the way to the West End Bridge, all the way to the Hot Metal Bridge. Okay, so everybody knows this Y, right? Bridge, West End Bridge. And this company said, you know, we could create a path that is 15 miles long. And we'll chart this path that someday will be a loop.
Yeah.
And along that path, and this was, I think, the brilliance, we recognize that you go from neighborhood to neighborhood to neighborhood. And we will take that 15-mile path and we'll break it into 35 different sections. And over the next 30 or 40 years, you're going to do section by section by section. So the section up by the 31st Street Bridge is different than the section by the new stadiums, which is different than the section across the Mon, you know, where Station Square is. So just like Pittsburgh has 92 neighborhoods, you're going to have these different sections that reflect what comes up to it. Wow. And where we are today, you know, does anybody feel the tingle?
Yeah.
You know, probably 80% of that is done. The only segment that's not done, and there was just a big op-ed in the Post-Gazette by my partner, Ken Doyno, is the part between Station Square and West End Bridge. So if you're familiar with that section, normally you just see trains going by there and there's some warehouses. Once that gets done, this whole Three Rivers Park. And from that sprung everything. Now, come with me, the convention center, the stadiums. It goes on and on and on. And how many of us have taken strolls there, bicycle, and then just the rivers themselves, you know, the cleaning up of the overflow storm sewage issue. I picked the right place. It's like getting a stock, you know, that was down low. And we know now Pittsburgh, interesting, in 1982 it was ranked 4th. In 1986, or at 1984, you may remember this, it was ranked number 1.
I do know that,
You know, so we were here 2 years earlier than that. And if you remember that, when it came out, there wasn't a single Pittsburgher who said, oh yeah, I think it should have been number 1. You know how Pittsburghers are, like, we know this place is so hard, and the rivers, and I can't get there from here. But Pittsburgh number 1. So that's sort of a inflection point.
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time talking to different people about this period and about how there was a lot of opportunity for artists and creative folks, right? Like you could go to an empty warehouse and just do a pop-up art gallery or have a concert there or something else. It had to have been the same way, I would imagine, for architects. All of a sudden, and I know it's different, right? You have to have developers with the land. There has to be a vision for what it's good. But it had to have just felt like anything was possible. Like this was a city that was waiting to come alive, and you got the opportunity to be included in that. Am I wrong about that, or?
Well, a lot of it has to do with finances and jobs. You know, back in the 80s, there weren't, you know, a lot of the top corporations were starting to shrink and pull out. You know, we had a recession. I think the first couple decades were just like, just getting your feet wet and surviving. And, you know, our firm was, you know, young. Rothschild Doyno Collaborative started November 21st, 1988. So I worked for 6 years for other firms before I got my license and was able to establish a firm. And in late 1988, 89, we were just starting to establish a place, you know, started by myself, joined by Ken Doyno 3 months later. So we've been working together for 37 years. Around town, we found a foothold in affordable housing way back when.
Wow.
And I think if you look from 1989 to 2026, it's a long time, it's still an issue.
Yeah.
Affordable housing is still an issue. I mean, you hear, you know, the recently elected mayor saying it's an issue. We do projects, affordable housing all over the city. And as I'm talking about opportunity, we'll do affordable housing that might have 50 units. And you have to be income qualified to go into affordable housing. You pay a percentage of your income, not market rate. So it's affordable, right? We'll do a project for 50 units and we'll get 300 people on the waiting list.
Wow.
You know, and then we'll do another one over here, the same thing. And we've done, you know, dozens of those in many different neighborhoods. So that's still an opportunity.
Wow.
But, you know, I know I'm going into that middle space, but certainly what you see now is an optimism.
Yeah.
And that slowly turned for me after Three Rivers Park got started to say, we got something really special here.
Yeah.
And that's when money came in and development came in. And now, you know, it used to be the Golden Triangle was the name, you know, when David Lawrence and Renaissance 1 and Renaissance 2 was, and I saw some of that.
Yeah.
Because when I first moved here, PPG was under construction.
Right.
My office was right across the street. But now what's happening, all the money's going into the Strip District.
Yeah.
So, you know, from, you know, the 16th Street all the way up to even into Lawrenceville, it's almost one continuous thing. And I was joking with you about this before the podcast. People are now calling it the Golden Ladle.
Right.
You know, where you have the triangle, which is the spoon.
Right.
But there's more development now in the Strip District than downtown. And I think the mayor's going to try to, and the governor has a big plan to do more redevelopment in the Golden Triangle. But now, I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah. You know, it's very interesting. I remember 98, 99, my sales director at KQV had lived in Green Tree, or maybe Scott, but she said, I just bought a place in the Strip District. And it was the first warehouse that they turned into
right by your office.
Right. Yeah. And I can remember all of us saying, Judy, this is a horrible mistake.
Who would live there?
Nobody wants to live in the Strip District. You can't even park. Like, this is crazy. And she said, I'm telling you, I think she paid $250,000 for it. And now I can't imagine what would that's worth.
It's always been full.
Yeah.
It's always been full. Yeah, our office is at the corner of Penn and 29th.
Right.
When we moved there, it was the belly in between the Strip and Lawrenceville. There was nothing there. So this was in 2008, right before that recession. Since that time, it's like two armies marching towards 29th Street. The Strip District kept coming towards us.
Yeah.
And Lawrenceville kept coming towards us. And then on 29th Street, on Railroad Street, somebody developed a building. It was like the golden spike between the two railroads in the country.
Right.
And now it's just one continuous development. And we're lucky to have bought our place when it was not much there. Yeah.
So the word collaborative means a lot to you guys, to your firm, community driven. Can you kind of backtrack and tell us what that means to your firm and what it means to the communities that you go into?
That's a great question. You know, initially the firm was Rothschild Architects, and then it was Rothschild Doyno Architects, and then it became Rothschild Doyno Collaborative. The basis of that has to do with a unique process that we developed that started while I was a student. While I was a student, the way that an architecture program works, you're given a problem and you have to solve it. And then you pin up your solution and you sit there while your professors and invited guests say they like it, they don't like it, that kind of thing. And all my classmates would do that, and they'd put up finished projects. I didn't like that idea because I felt I didn't know some of the people who were attending this thing, and I didn't know if they were allergic to something, you know, like I don't like chocolate and you're doing, you know.
Yeah.
So what I did, I developed this process that I called the design sketchbook process. And what it was like putting together a book that talked about the ideas, the initial ideas behind a project, and it showed it through all the different stages. And it had to do with, oh, look at that.
Yeah, we just happen to have some right here.
It had to do with my love of comics as a kid.
Yeah.
So I did grow up. I was born in 1958. I would go down to the store with
Yeah.
the nickel and a dime. I get the Superman, the Batman, the Archie,
Right.
Veronica,
Right.
all that stuff. And I was, I thought I would be a cartoonist.
Yeah.
That's actually what I thought growing up. So I would practice drawing Snoopy and Charlie Brown with the thing. And so when I got to school and I thought, I'm going to make comic books that talk about the ideas. And if you're on board with the ideas, you're going to have to like the final product.
Wow.
It was,
Yeah.
So anyway, I graduate and I go to my first job, and I get a project that was like a hair salon or something.
Yeah.
And I start making this little book, and my boss comes by and says, like, "Are you working?
Right.
What are you doing?
Drawing comics.
I'll pay you.
Right.
Draw something with a T-square." So I told him, remember in the interview, I would make these books. I'd like to try to do this, to get the client on board. And he said, "Oh, okay." So I did. And the clients really liked it because, artists, architects, poets, you have the blank page syndrome.
Right.
And nobody really sometimes realizes that because it's behind the curtain. You're staring at a blank page and you're trying to come up with an idea, So you show them the first page,
Yeah.
right? So that worked well while I was working with other people, just me, my boss perhaps, and clients. But the real switch happened when I opened up our own company, and this is where the collaboration comes in. I thought, if it's working for me, what if I train every employee in this process? So we don't get one idea, we get 2 ideas or 3 ideas.
Sure.
And what if we show our client these 3 diverse ideas and get them to be part of the process of picking and choosing, not necessarily one of the 3, but if they can cherry pick something from here and something out of here and come up with a 4th idea that they own, it's a collaboration.
Yeah.
And voila, it was like magic.
Wow.
And, we haven't copyrighted this or anything like that. We do see people trying to imitate a little bit. But the ideas and the creativity, when diversity is included, is much better than what we call the genius model. A lot of architecture firms, and they're valid, have the genius model, where everybody has their little slot of expertise, and one of them is the creative person.
Right.
So when a project comes in, it goes to the creative person, you whip it up, you hand it to the technical person, I put the technical things together, I hand it to the construction person. The genius model works for starchitects. You've heard that
Yes.
term?
Yes.
Famous people who have certain styles that are drawn, developers are drawn to. This eschews that and says this is the collaborative model. And it's been the cornerstone of our success for 37 years.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And just one more thing, the way that we make it equitable is everybody gets the same size piece of paper. So this is what we've developed is 8.5 by 14. So whether you're the owner of the company, I don't know if this comes in here, the owner of the company or someone right out of school, you get the same real estate
Yeah.
to show your idea. And sometimes these young kids, they're like, really?
Right.
I thought we're supposed to draw toilet details for a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
But no. And everyone, and this goes back to my dad, who was in advertising. So he was in advertising on Madison Avenue during the 50s. So
Yeah.
Mad Men.
Mad
Yeah.
Men, yes.
He was
yes.
Mad Men. So I grew up looking at his advertisements in magazines mostly.
Yeah.
And they all had headlines. And then a lot of times they mixed words with pictures,
Right.
like graphics
Right.
with examples. Again, comic book.
Yeah.
So every one of our sketchbook pages has a headline, and then it mixes words with pictures to get a fuller understanding of the idea. You can sketch a tower, but then you could say, relates to the fountain at Point State Park.
Yeah, yeah.
They're different.
Right.
If you use the words only or use the picture only, it goes somewhere into your brain, some depth. But putting the words and pictures together, it goes to another place.
Yeah.
And this would be an example of a project we did in Lawrenceville. And some of these sketchbooks are 100 pages long.
Yeah.
And at the end, we give them as gifts. They usually end up in the lobby of the place.
Yeah.
And that's why we're called the Collaborative.
I love that.
Well,
That
It's a
is
collaborative
amazing. That is
spirit.
amazing.
Yeah.
What I think is so interesting, before my wife started to work with you, I never appreciated the level of artistry that goes into architecture. I know people talk about it. I know they talk about the facade of a building, the artistry of it, but I never realized really the whole scope. And when you look at one of these sketchbooks, you really get a sense of the artistry, and the people who are architects walk this line sort of between art and science, and there's a real mixing of that. And as a writer, I think it's the same sort of way. As writing is sort of part academic, part creative. And,
Right brain, left brain.
Right, right. And so I'm just fascinated by it. But another thing that I think is just so amazing that you've done, that you should copyright if you haven't, are the listening sessions you've done. I know them from places like Braddock, where you've gone into sort of, I don't want to say underdeveloped, but places.
Emerging.
Yes, right. That's right. Emerging sort of communities. I know from your time, from when Braddock Hospital closed, you went.
We were there.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily go in with the goal of selling something. You go in with listening, and then trying to find out what the community can be assisted by. And that's that's sort of twisting the way most businesses work on their head. It's unbelievable that you've done it. This is really something that you should copyright if you haven't.
Yeah, so what you're talking about is sort of a branch of architecture, maybe the expansion of community planning, urban planning, urban design, and all that stuff. So our firm does both, and part of the reason is our ability to listen. So it's not only to our staff on the design sketchbooks, it's with neighborhoods. So we've worked, in almost every neighborhood that you can think of. What we try to do is try to teach or try to understand that those community meetings are not the geniuses, experts swooping in with the cape, saying, we know what you need. It's called a listening session. And we have different ways that we run listening sessions. Mainly, it's coming in with humility, to understand that we don't live there. We can do research. But I'll give you an example. You mentioned Braddock.
Yeah.
We've done 4 or 5 projects in Braddock, right along Braddock Avenue. We even did the master plan for Braddock. But I'll talk about one, which was affordable housing. It's called the Avenue Apartments. And right on Braddock Avenue. So we go to the council, they green light the project. They say, but we want a committee of 6 people, 6 seniors, it was senior affordable housing, to kind of be the stewards of the project. This sounds great, right? Where do you want to meet? Braddock Library. Where else would we meet? So the developer and I would go to Braddock Library every Tuesday at 11 o'clock at the beginning of the process to find out, to listen. Right?
Yeah.
Well, I'd get there. Everybody showed up early, so I'd be there at 11. You could tell they were there. And we wouldn't get started because they would just start telling stories about growing up in Braddock. Oh, you remember this? And, I'm sitting there and I'm on a clock. Even though I'm a nice guy, I got to go. Right. So 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Okay, let's start the meeting. We start the meeting. Come back the next week. More stories. Oh, you remember the parade? What about the Kennywood Day? You remember how many shoe stores were on? Another 20 minutes. By the time we got to the 3rd meeting, we realized that's what the meeting was about.
Yeah.
It wasn't about what you want in your kitchen or what you want for parking.
Yeah.
So we said, let's stop these meetings. These stories, there are some amazing stories. Why don't we collect stories of the entire town?
Yeah.
How do you want to do this? We'll put together a flyer And we'll go to, they had an annual high school reunion, we'll go to churches, we'll set up booths, blah, blah, blah. And let's just ask to hear your stories. So we gathered all these stories up, and we thought, why don't we make an art gallery on the outside of the building? We'll hire a local artist, and we'll chunk the stories into different parts. So Main Street, ethnic clubs, recreation, high school, blah, blah, blah. We hired an artist, Robert Qualters. If you know who he is, go look look him up. He is in Homestead, just a very famous Pittsburgh artist. And he created 10 panels. Each panel is, about this 6 foot by 6 foot that are on the building. And all of a sudden, this modest, affordable housing for seniors becomes a cultural center.
Wow.
And I once asked Bob, so do we have to put graffiti coating on this?
Yeah.
He said, I've never had any of my public artwork tagged.
Wow.
Ever. And you go there to this day, that building's probably 20 years old.
Really?
So if you're never in Braddock, go down Braddock Avenue, it's first new building on the left. But that's an example of listening sessions.
Yeah.
We went to this meeting thinking we needed to measure doorways and
Yeah.
things like that.
Right.
But we're humble enough to know that that's not the story. I mean, I remember one story real quickly. I came over at 16 from Poland. I worked in the steel mill. I wrote back to my family to send my next door neighbor girl to come over to marry me. She comes over at 16. They end up having 8 kids. I mean, this is all written down. I mean, just amazing stories in Braddock. And you know what? They're not alone in great stories.
Right. Right.
We've worked in Homewood, the Hill District, Northside. Stories are out there.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I'm sorry, Valerie.
No, go ahead.
For me, I grew up right by Braddock. I grew up in between Braddock and McKeesport in North Versailles.
Yeah.
And to walk down those main streets, these very wide streets that at one point, it was a city. McKeesport was the second largest city in Western Pennsylvania, and Braddock wasn't far behind. So you had these really powerful economic centers, and they all had Art Deco architecture because they were built in the 40s, 50s.
Yeah,
and
the heyday.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to walk down there and see what the architecture was, and then to see what, especially in Braddock, which is had a sort of a renaissance. I know it still struggles. Certainly McKeesport struggles more than Braddock does. But the architecture there already in place was amazing. And then to see this new sort of redevelopment shape it combines the best of both worlds, I think.
Yeah, we try to take clues from, what is standing. Sometimes in architecture and planning, it's a challenge what to do with existing buildings. What should stay, what should go.
Yeah.
But when we find our open spaces, we look across the street, we look at the neighbors, and we try to relate everything. And we certainly were fortunate enough to do that in Braddock.
Yeah.
So I have one more question, and then we'll take a quick break. But when you had these listening sessions and the community's telling you what they wanted, what they needed, how did local governments work with you on that? Because sometimes they have an idea what they want in that space, and then the community's telling you they want something else. How hard or how easy was it to work with local governments at that point?
That's a great question. I don't think we've ever had conflict like that. A lot of times you're working with the government authorities to understand what the approval processes are.
Okay.
Sometimes you have mayors or council members who have certain points of view. But when we go in and say, well, we understand that, but we want to meet with the community, are you okay with that? Even if it isn't exactly what you want, we've not really had pushback. I can understand if that happened, then we're caught in the middle.
Yeah.
But no, we haven't run into that. Yeah,
Fantastic.
Fortunately. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more. We'll be right back.
Good. Thank you.
Where do Pittsburghers go to make a good night even better? Con Alma in downtown Pittsburgh, where the lights stay low, the jazz speaks for itself, and the kitchen is on point. Come early and stay late, and let the night do the rest. That's Con Alma, downtown Pittsburgh.
It rises from the mist. It's back. Your favorite independent publication dedicated to fantastic films. Drive-In Asylum. Brand new issue number 27. Piranha. Werewolves. Gremlins. It must be Joe Dante, the one and only. James L. Conway, who once unleashed the Boogans. And also the queen of Fulci's Living Dead trilogy, Catriona McCall. Plus film reviews and commentary and newsprint images designed to transport you to an ancient era of newspaper advertising. Yes, the lurid images have returned. Go to groovydoom.etsy.com or go to Strange Vice or Forbidden Planet New York to purchase Drive-In Asylum, your fantastic film connection. To avoid fainting, keep repeating. It's only a fanzine, only a fanzine, only a fanzine, only a fanzine.
Welcome back, everybody, to GXP. Dan Rothschild, thanks again for joining us tonight. We have a couple more questions.
Yeah, Dan, when I think of Rothschild Doyno, and I know it's not the only work you do, but I tend to think of, because of our history, a lot of the Jewish projects. You worked in the JCC. You've done a lot of other of the Jewish institutional buildings around town. But you've also worked on a lot of not-for-profit buildings. And really, I think you use the term meaningful design. And can you talk about what that means? What is meaningful design?
That's a great question, Dave. You mentioned nonprofit clients. We do have sort of a niche here in Pittsburgh, working with mission-oriented nonprofit clients who are trying to make the world a better place. What meaningful design is to us is that design that goes past just aesthetics. So when you think about aesthetics and you're in school and you're looking at design, there's certain things in architecture that are known to be found beautiful. You know, symmetry, proportion, color, form, and all that stuff. And that's fine. And, you know, as architects, you try to make buildings that look nice, okay? Meaningful design goes past that. And it gets into the memory and the purpose of a project. So, for example, the memory or meaningful nature of a project can be cultural, social, spiritual, environmental, even physical a little bit. And when you find out what that embodied memory is in a neighborhood or with a client or an organization, you then try to use that symbolism in the project.
Mm-hmm.
So many examples. I'll give you a really quick example. We did a project that was a whole city block in the middle of the Hill District.
Oh.
And this was back in the day when the government used to do affordable housing in towers.
Sure.
And they found out that was a real failure.
Yeah.
And they would knock down the towers and they would do mid-rise buildings on main streets. And we would be doing these listening sessions with seniors in the neighborhood. All they could talk about was jazz.
Yeah.
Growing up, playing instruments, going to the Crawford Grill, hearing the famous musicians who were traveling from New York to Chicago, staying over in Pittsburgh. It was called, Hill District was called the crossroads of the world in jazz.
That's right, it was, yeah.
Jazz. So that was an easy one.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a project called The Legacy. And on the outside of the building, we held a contest. We sent out ballots to the neighborhood. We listed 30 famous jazz greats that grew up in Hill District. Yeah. Pick your top 12. And we engraved their names in limestone running the length of Center Avenue in Wiley.
Wow.
And when this building went up, I mean, people, is this a Hall of Fame?
Right.
What is this?
Right.
But that was the embodied memory. So the building's pretty. It has red brick. It has orange brick. It has windows.
Yeah.
It has nice shape. But it totally transformed
Right.
that place. And that's an example of meaningful design. And it's really, I think, with the design sketchbook and the meaningful nature of it, it makes us want to come to work every day, trying to figure out what is that nugget that's going to make this project more than just beautiful.
I want to run a contest now where people try to guess the 12 musicians who were, because I'm thinking Stanley Turrentine, Art Blakey. I don't know how modern
Do
you
you know
get.
who Roger Humphreys
Oh
is?
yeah, I know Roger.
Roger
yeah.
Humphreys is a drummer.
Right.
He had a band. He was the only living person
Yeah.
that was on the building. We invited him. I'm gonna get a little emotional.
Yeah.
We invited him for the ribbon cutting. Him and his band to play, right? As we're setting up, I brought him into the billiard room. We actually had a pool table room because it's kind of like a Hill District thing. And on the wall, we had Teenie Harris photos.
Sure.
Little 8x12s lining the billiard room.
Yeah.
I'm sitting standing close to you, and we're looking at the photograph. He goes, "That's so-and-so. That's so-and-so.
Sure.
That's a council person who was a real crook." And then we go to the next one. "That's me."
Wow.
And then he turns to me and he says, and his name's one of the,
Right.
he says, "I never thought something like this would happen to
Yeah.
me, that my name
Wow.
would be."
Wow, that's
And we just
amazing.
stand there, we're like,
It's unbelievable.
yeah, so when you hit that chord,
Yeah.
like a musician, hitting that thing that really resonates,
Yeah.
that's what meaningful design is.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
Roger Humphreys.
You've had a lot of projects like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As,
So-
as awesome as that project was, the Mosaic Apartments was probably,
It was also a good project.
yeah, it was pretty good, wasn't it? Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
So that project was just completed in November of last year. So, so thank you for asking about that. That's a very special one to me personally. So I think the first thing is to understand what the purpose of the project was and then where it's located. So this is also affordable housing. I talked about how that's been our DNA for 37 years. But the uniqueness of this is it's going to be, or it is, affordable housing for LGBTQ seniors, where there's only a handful of them in the country. So all of a sudden, we're given this understanding that you better be careful. This is something that's not really been done. So we do research, and we find that this is through a nonprofit called SAGE, who does a lot of work with LGBTQ seniors, that over half of LGBTQ seniors have faced housing discrimination in their lifetime.
Mm.
So you remember, if you're like 70 or 80 now, and you're in your 20s and 30s trying to find an apartment,
Yeah.
half of them can't live here.
Wow.
Can't live here.
Mm.
And even when they do get there, they don't feel safe.
Wow.
So this is the research that we found. So a little heavy burden there,
Yeah.
right? At the same time, we are doing this when this whole transgender political thing is playing out in elections and party politics and like blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into the politics of it. But we were then given a site that was the most prominent site in Oakland. So why I say that is if you're on the Parkway getting off the Forbes Avenue exit, we've all done this, you get off the exit and you curve around under the Boulevard of the Allies, you come up the road to the traffic light.
Yeah.
On the left-hand side was a green lawn that UPMC owned. They would put Christmas trees there at holiday times.
Right.
It was a blank slate. So here we are with this special purpose on the gateway site to Oakland, the building that's going to set the tone for you are entering the economic engine of Pittsburgh, culturally, medically,
Yeah.
educationally, and you're doing an affordable housing project. So, so we started our listening sessions, and there are two senior LGBT groups in Pittsburgh, PERSAD, P-E-R-S-A-D,
Right.
and Hugh Lane Wellness Group, both in the East End. And these were wild meetings. They were great. We would have 30 or 40 people just telling stories, talking about their lives, talking about their aspirations. We need this to be colorful.
Yeah.
And then we also did research And this was one of the first pages in our sketchbook, and I'll try to find it right here because it still is very amazing to me. I'm going to hold this up here. This was a gentleman in our office named Walt who did a history of pride flags. Now, when you think of pride flags, I think of the one that's kind of up now. It's
Right.
rainbow with the little triangle in the corner. That wasn't the case. So back in the 70s when this first started, there was a flag that was sort of rainbowish. But as branches or segments of the LGBTQ population began to have voice, they each wanted identity with their own flag. And if you look at the sketchbook page, there's all these different flags. And the diversity is incredible, and the colorful nature is also incredible. So this page became like the bellwether of an understanding to say, we are going to come out with a very colorful building, and it's going to be like a piece of art. So when you, hopefully you can now go see this.
Yeah.
It's a 4-story, almost 200-foot long billboard of sorts of different shades of blue and different shades of green. Okay? We showed our clients all different types of colors. They didn't want the rainbow at the very beginning. And then we showed them different collections of colors. But the interesting nature of it, the front of the building changes color as you drive by.
Yeah.
It transitions.
Right.
It starts off at one thing and ends up as another thing, like a transgender
Right.
process. And the way that we did that is we put these triangular bump outs, we'll do it this way for the camera, that stick out in each apartment, one in the living room, one in the bedroom.
Okay.
They're become little niches on the inside. One side is painted blue, the other side is painted green. So as you're coming up Forbes, which is a very kinetic movement, it's like the off-ramp to the parkway, it starts out as green
I love it.
and then
Love it.
changes as blue. A
Yeah.
very subtle message about the transgender community.
I love it.
Very interesting. Now, it's a beautiful building, but
Right.
that is the integration of meaningful design. It's not a secret that that happens. It's not a secret that it's based on pride flags. But to have both of them together makes it special. And to take it even further, we decided that artwork was such a big part of the senior sessions that we heard. People who collect art, people who do art, people who just want to see art. So we designed 2 areas in the building that would be murals painted by local artists. And we held a competition, about 20 artists, and they were from the LGBTQ community, submitted work. There were exterior murals at the base of the building, and there are interior murals in the lounges right off the elevators. The interior murals were done by Pinaka Art, Pinaka Art, and the exterior murals are by Rosabelle Rosalind. Exterior murals show a community of people walking and shows a diversity of people in color that is just amazing. So that's for when the traffic builds up in the morning. 2 types of roadway. One is non-rush hour. It's a 30 or 40 mile an hour sprint up to the light. During rush hour, it's a parking lot.
Yes.
During rush hour, you can look at the base of the building and see these beautiful images of LGBTQ subject matter walking in one direction. In the interior murals that are opposite the elevator lobby, Pinaka Art did research, and in talking, they also met with the seniors. We had them do listening sessions with the seniors. They heard about the historic places in Pittsburgh that were the bedrock of the burgeoning and growing LGBT community. They took symbols from those and put them on the different floors. So, I mean, the one that sticks in my mind on the third floor is this winged horse, which is called Pegasus.
Pegasus.
And Pegasus Lounge on Liberty Avenue
Right.
was the place.
Right.
Now, we don't hand out leaflets saying that,
Yeah.
but from a meaningful design nature for those
Yeah,
people
yeah.
who are there. And what's nice about the interior murals is there are 3 stories of lounges, and the entire facade is all glass. So when you're coming up Forbes Avenue, it's on the sidewall,
Okay.
and they're lit at night when the glass goes transparent.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this 3-story mural inside with people now who are not hiding,
Right.
but they're in their lounges surrounded by these meaningful murals.
Yeah. To me, that shows
Hope that
how
wasn't too much
No,
detail.
I think that's great. I think that shows how architecture reflects changes in society, right? I interviewed a few people when I was beginning work on an idea I had for a second book about Pegasus.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they said at the time, Pegasus served a function not just for the LGBTQ community, which was immensely important, but also for women who didn't feel safe necessarily going to other bars. They could go to an LGBTQ bar and feel safe. And so this woman that I spoke with said, we don't need necessarily, and forget politics, right? I mean, but the need for a bar like Pegasus doesn't necessarily exist the way it did. Right? But there's still need, as you're showing, as you've talked about, for the next thing, right? Which is housing.
Yeah, I mean, at the ribbon cutting, the first speaker was a new resident.
Yeah.
And he said, my name's Charlie, whoever. He said, I've lived in 7 places in my life. The place where I grew up, 6 other places. Every one of those 6 places, I didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel like I was home. In this place, I drive my car into the underground garage. I get out. I see people in the garage. They are my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
They support me. I go into the elevator lobby. I wait with people. They are my friends. I'm going to
Yeah.
choke up.
Yeah.
It's so special.
Right.
That
And
is
he says this
awesome.
is the first time in my life
Yeah.
Wow.
that I'm allowed to live with who I am.
Right. Well, let me ask you. You are still a young man, right? But you've been the president.
You're too
of,
kind.
Well, I know that you've been the president of the Pittsburgh. Am I saying that right? Architecture AIA.
American Institute of Architects Pittsburgh chapter. Yes, I
Right.
was president.
Yeah, and you've done this amazing work in the city. Do you ever stop and think about your legacy?
That's a great question. Not right now.
Yeah.
I guess I can in the future. I mean, our firm right now, I have 6 partners, and they're all kind of stair-stepped in age. And I think, we are an architecture firm, but I think we're also a movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to be there to do the design sketchbook and be collaborative.
Yeah.
Everybody's in there wanting to do meaningful design, and we're making the world a better place, making Pittsburgh a better place. So it definitely continue, even though I'm not a young man. At least I'm middle. But and then what's interesting, the people coming out of school, we get to attract
Right.
people who buy into this, who know how to still draw,
Right.
Yeah.
who are thinking with the neck-top computer, not the laptop computer.
Right.
And they want to make the world a better place. And so it's like a flywheel, Yeah, so it is going to continue past my involvement.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, thank you for everything that you're doing for Pittsburgh. This is
Yes.
really needed
Right.
and it's loved.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
have one more thing before we let you go.
Okay, this sounds like fun.
We're going to ask you a question, and all you have to do is answer it. Are you ready? Rapid fire questions.
Rapid fire. Ready,
ready?
Sure.
Okay. Three Rivers or Heinz Field?
Three Rivers.
Iron City or Rolling Rock?
Iron City. No. But you know why I say Rolling Rock? My in-laws are from Ohio, and they don't get Rolling Rock. And every time I would go there, I would have to bring them Rolling Rock illegally over the
Oh,
border.
yeah, sure.
So probably I should say Rolling
Okay.
Rock, but personally, Iron City.
Turner's or Schneider's?
T.
Neither.
You know, I know, in the
Yeah,
box.
right.
Yeah,
Not a big fan of Sugar Water?
no,
yeah.
no, sorry.
Okay. So your favorite 80s or 90s band?
You know, I have to go earlier, but when I was in third grade, Michael Jackson came out with his first
Sure.
song.
Yeah.
And I remember in third grade, our teacher let us get on top of our desks and dance. So when I think of bands, I start with the Jackson 5, but I'm taking your question and massaging.
Sure, that's okay.
But that's a true story.
Yeah.
Okay. Donzi's and Chauncey's or Metropole and Rosebud?
Metropole and Rosebud, I would go there often. Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That industrial aesthetic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what about your favorite movie from the 80s or 90s?
I'm trying to think the 80s and 90s. How old was I? So let's see.
You're old enough to move to Pittsburgh.
You know, I would have to say the Star Wars stuff.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
that started in '76, I
Yeah.
think. But yeah,
Okay.
that was something else. Yeah.
Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
Pearl Jam.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of funk. Yeah.
Yeah. How about is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
No, not my family.
Thank
I'm
you.
with you.
Finally,
No, I'm
finally.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Southside Beehive or Oakland Beehive back in the day?
Southside Beehive. You know, I've read the book.
Sure.
And I believe, you know, that was the Genesis, and the other one was the Exodus. Yeah.
And so, last one. This might be a harder question for you, but if you were going to identify with one character from the Breakfast Club, which one would that be?
Oh, wow. Because I know that. Emilio Estevez.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be that
Okay.
guy. Yeah.
And how about, were you excited when How I Met Your Mother came out and all of a sudden there was an architect that wasn't the Brady dad on TV?
Yeah. Architects haven't really been displayed.
Right.
Yeah. Although, Adrian Brody, you know,
Oh, that's right.
The
Sure.
Brutalist,
Right.
he won Best Actor for
Right.
that. But it's a intense movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been a real pleasure having you.
Thank you for
I know that I
asking.
really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, it's
Thank
always
you
good
so
to see
much.
you,
You as
Yes,
well.
thank you so much.
You're
This
welcome.
was
Nice to meet
fantastic.
you.
Thank you. And thank all of you
Thank
for
you.
joining us tonight. We'll see you guys next week. Hosts for the Gen X Pittsburgh Podcast are David Rulo and Valerie Christoffel. Executive producer, David Rulo. Producer and graphic design, Kimberly Rulo. Producer, Valerie Christoffel. Video production and editor, Brent Isaac. Music by Neostem. Sponsored by Potomac Station Coffee House and Con Alma.